Welcome to Down South Football Live. This is Renard Williams coming at y'all today with our special signing day edition. We have, of course, me in the building. We have Mr. I Am DJ Double Dose, Ben Dennis, Chauncey Tuck, DL Garden 205. And as you see, we have a special guest. We have Mr. John Garcia, SIAllamerican.com, lead recruiting expert, really just recruiting director expert of everything in the recruiting business in college football. So if you want to know anything about that, that's why we got the man on here today to talk about what's happening today. Fellas, how y'all doing tonight?
And we good, man. Good day, man.
Pretty decent day. Can't complain.
Pretty decent. Before we get in,
everybody's team had a good day, right? Everybody on here's team.
I'm satisfied with it.
Good enough. It could have been worse.
Definitely could have been worse. But Destiny Hill could have went somewhere else, and we all would have been looking like Jesus.
But I do tell you who did have a tough day. That was Auburn's social media team.
We're gonna get there on that. So we're not. Let's first thing I want to do is first take the time to congratulate everybody who signed today, man. Whether you sign, whoever you sign with, it's a big deal. Don't let nobody take your accomplishment down. And special shout out to our nephew. Everybody nephew on Mr. David Gardner Jr.
Yes, sir.
Everybody get their hand clap for him.
Hey.
Dave trying to sit there like he ain't a proud father, you know.
He know he is.
I'm tired, dog. I'm tired, man. This day it's been exhausted, and I didn't even realize it was gonna be like that. So, yeah.
It was. I figured it was gonna be a long one for you, man. But definitely say congratulations to Lil Dave once again. I can't even call Lil Dave no more. Call him Junior. Congratulations, Junior. For on getting somewhere to go play and extending his career. We never know what's gonna happen, but at least we know we're gonna see him on Saturdays on the fall, and that's all that matters. So while we still got people coming in. John, I want to start before we start today. I've had some personal feelings about the Rock Taylor situation with Tennessee. And Keith Etheridge, the Oxford coach, was actually on Jocks today, basically doubling down on what he said privately, publicly, saying that Tennessee, you're not welcome here. Basically, it's kind of what he said in a nice little nutshell. And we know this kind of stuff happens, but it to me was really, really kind of weird, because that first phone call to the staff was to basically tell you that we don't want your actual, the person that's there. We don't want him. We're going to move on from him. From your experience, I know it happens all the time, but what did you gather from that situation? Did you think it was weird like everybody else seems to be thinking?
I think it could have been handled sooner. And that's the main thing. I mean, 24 hours is not a lot of time for really any major decision. And this is a major life decision. I mean, this is right. Everyone hears it's your next 4 years, but it'll impact the next 40. That's true. Right. There's a reason why everyone's heard that phrase. So to give a kid 24 hours notice or less than 24 hours notice in this cycle that has already been, ultra stressful and honestly limiting. I know we talked about that last time. A lot of good players didn't sign today, so it's already a limited pool. So to give just 24 hours notice simply isn't good enough in my book. Perhaps it was a miscommunication. Maybe this was the intention the whole time and it wasn't properly communicated until yesterday. But again, that's the ball's in Tennessee's court there. I think it's one of those things where they're just going to have to take that L in the state of Alabama because it's the perception is tough. The optics are tough right now, and that's just with Rock. I mean, luckily he's a great player. I mean, 17 touchdowns last year, state title the year before that. So he was able to sign with Memphis, but it could have been a lot worse. So luckily he took care of himself and made a really mature decision in a short amount of time. But the optics for Tennessee and the state of Alabama aren't good right now. And that's not even getting into Dylan Brooks, who still has not been released from his letter of intent. I was talking to him today, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm still here waiting." It's been about 2 weeks since he requested that release from Tennessee's letter of intent. So, he's unable to legally speak to other programs until he has that release. So surely an SI 99 guy like that's going to get recruited, and he'll be fine as well. But again, the timing of has not been really great for Josh Heupel so far in Knoxville.
Yeah, and speaking on the Dylan Brooks situation, it's not many programs I'm expecting to speak to him. There's one in particular that I know he has his eye on, but we're gonna digress and move forward on that one.
He can't legally speak to them just yet.
Yeah, he can't legally speak to them, but hey, and John, we're not gonna get you in trouble. Let's just say that we know there's been we just know what Dylan's thinking.
So it was a bad phone somewhere.
It was communication before it was cut off, but
yeah.
But also, John, with today, before we get into this monstrous day, your thoughts on where we are as far as scholarships, with the 1 free year eligibility. Once again, I know last time we talked, we was kind of like in the same thing. We were waiting on January and just kind of see where we were. Any updates on that particular situation?
Yeah, it's still really murky, and that's why you saw a lot of teams just kind of punt today and say, you know what, whoever we signed in December, that was kind of it. Oklahoma, Washington, a lot of really strong programs really didn't push for anybody today. Ohio State at 7 a.m. tweeted Looney Tunes, that's all, folks, just to let you know.
Don't even look our way.
Yeah, they're like, hey, we're good for today, So I think that conservative approach is where most programs have gone. I mean, how many years, 5 years ago, did we talk about all of these SEC schools signing 25 to 30 kids, and this year it was really just Alabama that did that. Notre Dame, I think, had 27 as well outside of the SEC. So you didn't see a lot of teams at 25 or above. I think most teams, I haven't seen an average yet. I haven't done the math, but I would imagine the average recruiting class is probably under 20, which is not something we really ever see. And I think it's a direct correlation to the lack of knowledge with the scholarship numbers and the portal, man. That portal is a beast. And there's hundreds of kids in there right now that won't find a home. And there's going to be several dozen more that enter the portal, after signing day, as spring practice starts up for FBS, and then as spring football season, which is weird to say, starts up for everybody else. So I think the portal is going to be nuts. You're literally going to have kids who play 2 or 3 games, at an FCS school and go into the portal right after that, while other teams are preparing for spring practice. It's going to be pretty weird in this spring after signing day, but that's the nature of roster management right now, with everybody getting another year of eligibility and no clear indication of how the NCAA is going to handle that.
And you know something, John, to your point with Oklahoma, they literally only had 16 commits in this class. That's
exactly it. And that's
that's
how many
unheard of.
Right? Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, looking at the if we're going to talk about today, if we're going to talk about National Signing Day, we have to start down the road from where we are. We got to start in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, with that absolutely monster of a class, far away number 1 class, far away best class that if by ranking wise, we'll go there first.
Ranking,
We'll go by ranking wise. 7 5-stars. I know, John, in the SI 99, I know they had what, 12? 12. They had 12. And it was just absolutely ridiculous that they added what they added, man. Like, just speak on that class for a second, if you don't mind.
That class is the ultimate sign of the times to me, because one, it's like you said, far and away the number 1 class in the country. A couple months ago, Ohio State was number 1, and it was going to be really close, and they just hit the gas and really, really pulled away from a really good Ohio State class, a historically good Ohio State class. So sign of the times based on what Alabama did on the field, but also sign of the times in recruiting. Look, those are the schools that are going to get the benefit of the doubt. You don't have to, Nick Saban doesn't have to sell somebody on the culture or the city life of Tuscaloosa. It just doesn't have to do it. You saw the leaked video. He didn't even bring up Tuscaloosa once. So it's a sign of the times where everything is murky, but these blue bloods are going to continue to recruit as such. So Alabama, reflected what they did on the field. And then I think it's also a sign of the times with some of the schools that they go up against, right? LSU was down. Auburn changed coaches. Even looking at the state of Florida and the state of Texas, outside of the Gators, no real true threat. They went head-to-head with A&M and then took care of business. So what did they do? 7 Floridians signed with Alabama, 7 Texans signed with Alabama. So literally half the class, 14 out of 27 recruits were from Florida and Texas. I mean, that is just an absurd thing to consider in recruiting, especially when your home state is very strong, and your other pipeline state is Georgia, which is also always very strong. These are all top 10 states. So to have more than half the class from those 2 out-of-state territories is really absurd. And this class has pretty much every single thing you could want in a recruiting class.
And speaking on that class, we've also heard it. Of course, we talked about a little bit beforehand. We talk about Alabama class, not only just what they had before, not what they already have it coming in, but the fact that they're touting this is one of the best offensive line class totality in far as like ranking wise in history, with the Brockmeyer twins and the other guys and all them that's coming in. Like you said, it's like the rich gets richer. Like, we're just going to continue just to make this thing continue to roll. I thought that was the most impressive part of it, is the fact that they're really just had a really good line, had a really good line recruits last year, and bringing in more this year.
Yeah, I mean, they got the number 1 and 2 offensive tackles in the country, and then the consolation prize was his little brother, James, or his twin brother, James Brockmeyer, who's a little smaller. But, his coach told me that there's no player he's ever coached that he'd rather have in a back alley. And when you're talking about a center, that's what you want. I mean, look at what Bama just had in Landon Dickerson. He is the back alley, get something done when nobody's watching kind of cat, So, that offensive line class is absurd. J.C. Latham is the most physically impressive looking offensive lineman that I've ever scouted. Legitimately 6'6", 6'7", 320, and looks like he's 275. I mean, it's crazy what they're bringing in up front. The Terrence Ferguson kid from Georgia is excellent. He's that swing guard prospect, and then the kid from Texas, former Auburn commit Jaden Roberts, just a massive road grader. He is the Deontay Brown of this offensive line class. So you've got a whole offensive line. You got your bookend tackles, Brockmeyer at center, and then Ferguson and Roberts at guard. It's an unbelievable O-line group that any other year we would be talking about that every single day, but the class is so gaudy that it's kind of a footnote.
Yeah, because they can go just receivers, and their receiving class is probably better than the 2017 class. Arguably, that was Ruggs, Judy,
Devontae
Smith, and this class could be better than that class. That's crazy, man. I don't get it. So, what did you think about Nick Saban's leak audio? I think it was great. I mean, I think they just helped him out. It just helped his cause.
Yeah, he's really good about what he shows. So when you do get a glimpse of like who he really is with recruits and stuff, you start to see kind of the evolution. You get that old school, there's no reason why you shouldn't come here, approach. But then you also start to see some of the new school stuff when that kind of stuff is leaked, whether it's him dancing with families on the official visits or just kind of sitting on a Zoom, with his arms behind his head, just hanging out. You would never see that otherwise. So I think he's evolved in recruiting just as much as he has on the field. And like y'all said, it was a good thing because you kind of watched it and were like, oh, okay, I get it. Like, I get it. Like, what? Did he lie? Like, did he lie in that?
That's what I'm saying.
I don't think he.
Yeah, because he was one thing I took away from it was when he says everybody out there says you come to Alabama, you're not going to play, and he looked right at the camera when he said it. And I'm like, man, he talking junk to everybody else. Why he doing this? I said, this is planned. This is planned. I don't care what nobody says.
Out of all these years, this kid finally leaks out. Come on,
well, man. You can't say after all these years. It's the first year they've had to do Zoom. Let's. And the coach, it was his coach. It was his coach that actually took the video. So
but they've been recording. Like I would have been recording him on the phone.
Exactly.
Man, Nick Saban was I'm telling you, he's a tactician. This man knows how to do stuff. He knows how to get things done, and that's what I love about him, man. And I just hate he's up at that school up there. But hey. He's doing his job.
The thing that I heard today, and the thing that I heard was that the guy said, "Hey, the difference is that most people sell the coach. Hey, come help us build. Come help us do that." He just like, no, look what I have built. It's like that's the difference. Now you can see I don't have to sell you anymore. I just got to show you, tell you what I can and what I can't do for you, and it just kind of moves forward. But off Alabama and their great class. Please, moving forward,
we've given them there too.
Well, it's not even that. I was looking at your rankings. I think it was Ohio State next in line that you would think for the and they had a great class also.
Yeah, I love that class. So they didn't sign as much as Alabama, just 21 right now, but 11 are in the 99. So more than half the class is. So they have the highest ratio of 99 guys relative to how many they signed, and that group is about as good as it gets. Elite defensive line haul. Jack Sawyer, sort of the next pass rusher up with the whole Bosa brothers, Chase Young thing. I think he's next man up there. Mike Hall's a great interior D lineman. Secondary class is huge. I think they brought in like 6 guys, a couple in the SI 99 rankings there. Number 1 nickel, Jordan Hancock included. We know Ohio State likes those big nickel type prospects, so he fits in there out of the Atlanta area. And then you talk about a fun running back. I mean, Kamar Wheaton signed with Bama. Some people consider him the number 1 running back. We've got Trevion Henderson at number 1. Ohio State. That is, if there's an instant impact player at any position at any school, that's the kid. Even though he didn't even play in 2020 because he's from Virginia, that is the kid I might be looking most forward to watching this fall. He's an absolute complete total package at running back. Really excited to see him. Another good receiver class for Ohio State too, including Marvin Harrison Jr. in case y'all want to feel old.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ouch.
Peyton, one of Peyton's many weapons.
Yeah.
I saw that and I was like, Marvin Harrison Jr. God, dog, I am old. And we talked about the top 2, but let's talk about teams that kind of surprised you today. That kind of made some momentum moves today. Who were those teams that you just kind of looked at and said, wow, they finished really, really strong outside of, your of course, your Bamas. We know how strong they finished, but who kind of surprised you today?
I thought Michigan had maybe the best day. If you told me, mid-October, early November, whenever it was, when they were just, like 2-4 or whatever, you told me they would have a shot at a top 10 class, I'd have laughed, especially with all the Jim Harbaugh chatter about the NFL or getting fired straight up. You usually can't recover from that in recruiting in a normal cycle, much less this cycle where you can't even bring kids to Ann Arbor and say, hey, we're not winning or beating Ohio State, but there's still 100,000 people here to watch you. You can't even do that. So I really am surprised they were able to put together a top 10 class, and they held off some big time programs from trying to flip their kids, including Alabama for receiver Xavier Worthy. But today in particular, they flipped 2 D-line recruits. We all know, you guys are in Alabama. You know how important D-line recruiting is. They flipped 2 of them on signing day, including one who was committed to Michigan State, which is obviously a little extra bonus points there with Rashawn Benny. So I thought Michigan had a really good class and a really good day. Top 10 class, despite having only a couple of wins in 2020. That's the top 10 team. That's sort of the outlier. Everybody else you would have assumed is there based on what they did sort of on the field, right? Oregon, USC, A&M, LSU, Clemson, kind of the usual suspects otherwise. But then there's Michigan at number 10. I thought they had a really nice cycle. And my second biggest surprise will be Ole Miss, number 13 for us. We expected offensive recruits, and Lane got that done. But, today the highest ranked kid who was uncommitted going into the day was Tywone Malone, the defensive tackle, and he picks Ole Miss. I mean, so it wasn't a huge surprise today, but just the fact that Lane Kiffin is beating out, A&M and USC, two top 10 type recruiting programs for a kid out of state is, as I thought, was a pretty big deal. So kudos to Ole Miss and that group. Baseball helped out a lot with him, but still, Lane will take it.
And what about your? I don't want to say lose. Let's say disappointments.
Yeah, I mean Tennessee, I think speaks for itself. Just based on where they were in the spring. I don't know how much we talked about it on here, but at one point they had the most commits in America. Early in that COVID run, Pruitt and company were going crazy, pressuring kids to commit, and they got a lot of big-time prospects, Dylan Brooks, Terrence Lewis, Hudson Wolf, Caden Salter, the quarterback from Texas, was a really good player. They loaded up in a very small window, but they ended up losing some of those guys here at the very end, and then obviously, the whole Rock and Dylan Brooks thing at the end really stains their recruiting class, and that's the thing. That class is ranked beyond the top 20 with Dylan Brooks included. So if he's not included there, I'm not sure it's a top 25 recruiting class. No. And that's at Tennessee with those resources, even in a coaching change type of year, that's kind of not good enough. So I thought Tennessee, both, in terms of the last 24 hours, but over the end of the cycle in general, kind of dropped the ball a little bit there. A couple of schools out west didn't recruit too well. Colorado lost a couple of recruits in the last 24 hours. LSU had a couple hats on the table today and didn't add anybody. So that was a little bit sort of surprising there. And then Florida, same deal. They're still not quite recruiting at that level from the high school ranks. Now the portal is excellent, right? I mean, they got Rick Gilbert, Marcus Bowman. The portal is brilliant for the Gators, but in terms of high school recruiting, there's a lot of Florida kids who grew up Florida Gator fans who signed with Alabama and Georgia and LSU and other programs. And based on the year that they had, that's definitely not good enough. So I'd be a little concerned if I was a Gator fan, because I don't think any school can rely on the portal if they want to get to the playoff, which is obviously the ultimate goal.
True. Dave, you've been a little quiet, Mr. Gardner. So I know you're tired. I know you've had a long day, but I'm sure you have a question.
I mean, no, I don't really have a question. I mean, I'm gonna wait till later in the show to kind of go on my little Dave tangent, as you might call.
The TG, the DG, I mean the DT.
It's
coming to you live right now.
I'm not gonna give it to you right now. If I give it to you probably the last, I don't need about 5 to 7 minutes. But
okay.
I do have a question, huh? Go ahead.
No, I say, is this gonna be one of them personal ones that hit home?
No, I mean, it doesn't really hit home. I think it hits more so in this area. About some things that go on behind the scenes that people don't see, the stories you don't hear about, that affect other people's, not my family, but other people's family, and how it affect kids.
Okay.
One minute they're here, and then the next minute they're here, and I can only imagine what that conversation is like in the living room for no fault of their own. So, I mean, we'll get into all that.
We'll get that. Yes, sir. Okay, go ahead, sir.
We'll get that. But for John, though, what do you think about Mississippi State, man? I mean, I was kind of scrolling through here, and it kind of shocked me a little bit, because they actually, 247, of course, had them ranked a little higher than they did last year in recruiting. And with the total change in the way that program is headed, at least offensively, I mean, I was a little shocked.
Yeah, I thought they did a good job late in the cycle with some of these under the radar guys. They had a very small class in December, so you knew they had some wiggle room there, and so they were kind of the established program going against a lot of the kids that the transition schools were going against, whether it's Auburn, South Carolina. It seemed like Auburn, South Carolina, and Mississippi State were in on the same 7 kids today, and they kind of all got a couple of them. So I think they're doing well in state, obviously, and then kind of along that I-10 corridor, which is what you would sort of expect, down there at MSU. And look, it's Lane Kiffin's going to recruit nationally, so winning the state is possible. I view Mississippi State like I view Auburn, in that Alabama's always going to recruit nationally. So you have an opportunity to land a higher clip of in-state prospects, and it's important in Alabama, but it's even more important in Mississippi. So for them to grab a couple guys late in the cycle, I thought was really nice. They lost out on a few as well. But they certainly, gained a few commitments, and there's still a few kids out there in the state that haven't yet decided. I think the running back who's high on Auburn's board too, he's going to decide on Friday. So I do think there's some room late in the cycle for more SEC flavor down there. But yeah, you wouldn't have expected them to recruit too well based on the season, but I think because of how high Ole Miss got so quickly, it created a nice little window for Mississippi State, particularly in state, in a cycle where being close to home was a big deal. So I think they took advantage.
And John, could I ask you a question? Mine's for me would be North Carolina. I really liked what they were able to do. Matt Brown, if you look at what he's been able to do with these last 2 classes, I know a lot of people on that side of the ACC board, they've been trying to pin it as Miami, and of course it's been rotating here and there, but the way North Carolina is recruiting, especially the last 2 years, North Carolina's going to be a problem. And they're going to continue to be a problem with Mac Brown. And this class that they brought in today was really nice to me.
Yeah, they've done as good a job as anybody in keeping kids home. That's Alabama, in that it's right there as a top 10 high school football state, but a lot of other teams come into that state and pull the best kids out. And look, when you're in the Charlotte area, Clemson is very close. They're still going to be able to come up and get a Will Shipley every cycle, but flipping Drake May from Alabama, the big table setter for the class, and they kept a lot of great talent in state. Keyshawn Silver's a stud, SI-99 defensive lineman. Yes. And remember, they had the DB from Virginia who signed and then skipped the whole year of high school. So Tony Grimes was supposed to be in this class, so they would have been right there on the cusp of a top 10 class, and had the number 2 group in the ACC behind Clemson with what they did in North Carolina. Within state lines, I think 14 kids were from in-state. And then today they went down to Florida and picked up, maybe the biggest late riser among DBs in Florida against Auburn, against LSU too. So anytime North Carolina is in contention with Auburn and LSU for a secondary prospect and they win, I mean, that's a big deal for Mac Brown and Dre Bly. We remember watching Dre Bly in the league. I mean, I've run into him on the recruiting trail. I mean, that confidence he used to play with is there as a recruiter, and kids love that. He's coaching the position where you have to have that in the secondary. So it's like I used to say with T. Will at Auburn. If there's one position where this school is always going to be in it for great players, I think it's DBs and quarterbacks at North Carolina. Just like I used to say linebackers at Auburn.
Speaking of some blue bloods, when you brought up T. Will, of course, that's the one that probably hurts me the most. I think it was kind of surprising that T. Will wasn't retained, but with that, him being at Miami, him and T. Will and T. Rob and what they got going on down there, Miami gets a bad rap, but those are 2 monsters that they brought in on that trail. to help them out. So what's your thoughts on Miami?
I think you can question Manny Diaz as a coach all you want. He was a great coordinator back in the day, but I'll tell you what, he's a pretty good coaching hirer. I thought Rhett Lashley was a great get. That offense this year with Derek King looked completely different, and Rhett was kind of the perfect coach for that. They've been excellent in the transfer portal. I just mentioned King, Jalen Phillips, Quincy Roach, all those guys. Bubba Bolden, they've hit big in the portal, maybe more so than the Florida Gators. But you talk about some of these new assistant coaches. I think they're a program to mess with. Look, did they benefit from COVID in terms of all the elite talent down there?
Man, yes.
Them, a benefit. Yeah, sure. But they still had to hold off Clemson, Georgia, and Bama for James Williams. They had to hold off Florida, LSU, and Bama for Leonard Taylor, who may end up as the best D lineman in this class. So they still had to go out and win those battles. So I think Manny's becoming a good CEO type of coach. It's still going to come down to wins and losses, and we'll see if they can develop prospects. They haven't really shown that yet, but in terms of the front end of that, talent acquisition, they're doing a really good job, and they out-recruited Florida. Even though Florida was way better on the field this year, they clearly out-recruited the Gators in their own state, which, is, again, that's probably a surprise to a lot of people, but I think that's kind of the group he's putting together.
I was just going to say, I know you got to hurry to get you out of here, but I know the one big surprise that I had was USC. Everybody talks about Clay Helton.
Man,
everybody talks about my boy.
They want Clay out of there, man. The fans do.
He got a top 10 class, and then he could get the number one DT in the country too. With what's his name, JT? I'm gonna say his name right.
Wow.
Thank you. That is perfect. Yes. I mean, you can say it. That could bump them up probably in the top 5 if they get him. So, yeah. What's the biggest issue you see with the California kids? The California people saying we need to get Helton out of here and all that stuff.
Well, this time last year we were laughing at USC's class. It was real small. It was I think like 15 or 14 kids. It was incredibly small. And it was mostly out-of-state kids. It was bizarre to see. It was truly a product of the speculation that Helton wouldn't be there. So it kind of made sense. But winning can do some things for you. And I also feel like those coaching changes were really big. He brought some personality to his coaching staff because he's not known for a lot of personality, but he brought it with some assistance. Getting Dante Williams to leave Oregon as the DB coach was massive. He's an LA guy. And that was really the focus was, hey, if we just do well in LA, it's a lot like Miami. It's good you brought it up. If we just do good in LA, we'll be okay. I mean, think about all the LA quarterbacks that have gone elsewhere in the last 5 years. If they just keep kids home, they'll be good. And they were able to do that in this cycle. You mentioned Corey Foreman. Sierra Wright is a big-time DB. Today they got Rajon Davis, who was an LSU commit. And like you said, they're in it for other West Coast elite prospects. In the state of Washington, Julian Simon's a big-time SI99 linebacker, my favorite coverage linebacker in the class. And then they are technically in it for Tui Moloau, who's the top defensive prospect in America. And he's going to take forever to make a decision. So
he got all the time he wants. And
exactly. So most people think it's an Ohio State, maybe Bama situation, but the longer he waits, I think USC, Oregon, even Washington are going to have their hand in it. So I'm not betting against USC right now for West Coast kids, and they're off to a good start in 2022 as well. They're really doing a good job prioritizing the state. They've got this Boulevard Bound thing that is
I like that.
Basically like, hey, you're in Hollywood, so we will build a production team around you once all this name, image, likeness stuff kind of drops. So
and that's
huge for them.
Yes, that's gonna be big, especially with NCAA 2023 coming out pretty
Well,
soon.
I was just about to move into a different part of it. I was going to ask John about LSU at first, and then move into the NIL, which moves into the NCAA football coming back, which we was going to discuss that, have a little fun with. So we about to get into that. But hey, man, LSU took a lot of crap this year, and for them to finish where they finished at, top 5 class. And we all say the same thing. You can say what you want to say about LSU, but the band keeps rolling.
Yes.
So, what was your impressions about LSU in their class?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Again, kind of like Michigan, where it's like the year they had, you didn't think they could recruit this way. But the difference is, if there's anything Orgeron can do, it's still recruiting. That's just who he is. I mean, you talk about guys who feel like they're built for college football. It's Ed Orgeron, and that's not just a joke about his voice and his kind of character. I think it's just who he is. It's just who he is. You can tell he loves it. So I think that's still big for LSU. It's not the same as Saban at Bama, where no matter who the assistants are, they're going to be good. But that is, the most unique job in the country to me because of the state, right? It's the whole state is LSU. There is no doubt about that.
No other second team. Second team in that state.
there may even be as much or more LSU fans in Mississippi than Ole Miss and MSU. So, that job, I've been on record, a long time with this. That's the best job in college football if all things are even, to me, just because of that fact and the talent that is produced in that state. And that's really where it goes with LSU. 8 Louisiana prospects signed with LSU, including Mason Smith, top player in the state by a pretty wide margin. The only big fish remaining in Louisiana is Brian Thomas, the receiver, and LSU is the favorite for him whenever he makes a decision. Now, not signing today is probably not the best news for LSU. A&M is right there. I mean, it seems like we keep mentioning Bama, but they were right there at one point.
They got to stop. They got to be
50 recruits.
Right. You know what I'm saying?
It's like they had a number 27. I thought, it was like, what?
The SEC rule says 25, but
they had 27.
Yeah, I'm like, don't worry. Some gray shirts and some other colored shirts are coming.
Orange shirts, yellow shirts,
some new shirts we ain't never heard of.
Fuchsia shirts, and everything.
But dealing with that, John, I just wanted to hit on LSU. Yeah, we could go through so many of different classes, but you spoke on the NIL, name, image, and likeness, and we rejoiced yesterday when we finally heard the NCAA football was being released again. And, a slight tear rolled down my face. I ain't going to lie. I was happy. I had 2 little tears cut down my face.
I couldn't hear Chef fast enough. I'm like.
I have the still have NCAA 14.
I do too.
And I that's the only reason why I still have my old PS3. But bringing all that together is because the fact that they're talking about they're going to rebuild it from the ground up. And this is all calculated because now they're talking about it's going to be 2023 when the game comes out, and they're going to build the game from the bottom up. And they really kind of said, a spokesman kind of said that, hey, name, image, and likeness should be in by then, and it should be, had worked out a few of the wrinkles. So that way, when we come out with this game, then that's going to be the great thing. But you were talking about what Tuck was talking about with the name, image, likeness, and how people are going to be, how cities like LA are going to be using studios and all this other kind of stuff to actually promote, like, hey, you can be a bigger brand here. How big do you think name, image, and likeness is going to be? And then I'll get your personal. Were you happy about NCAA coming back?
Yeah, it's going to be everything. It's going to have as big of an impact as the transfer portal. It's going to have as big of an impact as regulating signing day to 25. All of the biggest changes in recruiting it's going to feel like one of those once it drops, because you think you have a handle on the resources at some of these places.
Mhm.
Wait until that drops.
Man.
Wait until that drops, and USC and A&M, Bama, Georgia. Like, wait till that thing drops, and some of these schools really get to flex legal muscle. It's going to be quite a sight to see. We used to talk about the facilities in the arms race like it was everything, right? And we were like, oh, they don't even have an indoor facility, or their locker room is 10 years old. They don't even have the digital names on the line.
Right.
Those small little quips are going to be truly an afterthought once NIL drops. And just like we saw with COVID, and just like we saw with what happened on the field, those blue bloods are going to benefit the most. So the secondary question is going to start becoming. This is already a conversation with some smaller level ADs and head coaches. How do you start to regulate recruiting in general? Because they try to put a number on it, and people are finding their way around that. I know one AD for an SI story that Ross Dellinger wrote, I believe yesterday, said, when you win the Super Bowl, you have the last draft pick. So if you do something like that in recruiting, it'll never be that simple. But you understand where that can come from, and if it's Bama, Clemson, Georgia, LSU, Oklahoma again in the next few years, at what point does everyone kind of try to reset the whole thing? I'm not sure how NIL will play a part into that, but again, the way I look at it right now, I don't see the Ohio State, Clemson, Bama group slowing down in any way, shape, or form. And I don't know if the NCAA wants that, but I know everybody else does.
They ain't got no choice but to accept it at this point because it's coming.
But John, what's your favorite NCAA football memory? Because I know I don't have to ask you played it. I know you played it.
Yeah. I used to do whole seasons overnight and then go to school the next day. Just terrible. I just love. I think most people just love taking a trash program and taking it to the ship. I grew up in Miami, so I did a dynasty with FIU, and we were winning national titles with Mario Cristobal. So, I like doing that. I think I won natties with FIU, Baylor, Idaho, because they have that dome. Just random programs that would never otherwise be there. But I want to know. I mean, that was before social media and before, or not before social media, but before this social media.
Yeah, right.
They got to go crazy with recruiting. You got to have
the portal got to be involved.
Decommitment,
everything.
Tampering. I don't know. They have to go nuts with recruiting. They got to spend a whole year on recruiting. They can spend on the game. We don't care about the graphics. We don't care about
we don't care about
the graphics are gonna be straight the man graphics. Yeah. We know that. It's the other stuff that they gotta work on.
They gotta make it real where like they gotta have some kind of social media in the game where your recruit posts a decommitment out of nowhere. Like they have to do stuff like that. And I think they have a lot of obviously time and talent and money and resources to get all of that done. So I'm really curious to see how they modernize it, because that was really the only thing missing from those games. It was everybody loved them. That's the game for the sport. So I'm excited. And it was nice when that news dropped for like 2-3 hours. Twitter was like a nice place.
Yes.
Okay. Everybody was on one accord.
Happy. There was no disagreements. It was at least my timeline was really excited and kind of relaxed and like, this is good news. Everyone could say this is good news. So I'm happy if that means that we get the game back, and it means that we're that much closer to NIL, because I do believe the players should get compensated.
I just can't wait to road to glory. When I can do my personal play, and then when Alabama comes, they can tell me I can pick out which charger I want. It'll just be amazing.
Oh my God!
Oh,
you know what?
My bad.
You know what? Let's wrap this. No,
John,
wrap him up. Wrap him up, Noah.
Moving forward, see, it's always these two up top. It's always these two.
Hey, I've been chilling this episode. I've been enjoying the knowledge. We've been talking about recruiting. Okay. You know how I am with that. I've been chilling.
They should let you do an official visit, and you get to pick the activities. Like, would you like to go out with the upperclassmen players? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Take you in it. Like, have a little Grand Theft Auto vibes in there.
Did you drive here? Did you drive here? We got you.
Yeah, we got you. Exactly. No problem. Exactly. Oh, that'd be dope. That would be dope, though.
I think one thing that's really cool is that they're actually looking for ideas. They actually said they have been scrolling through the message board beforehand, looking for ideas. They're trying to make it that way. Of course, I have several. And I think we said something in the group chat yesterday. Like I told them, I said they should go back and redo all the big games that they missed over the past 7-8 years.
They definitely gonna do moments because moments is a big part of They definitely do moments.
They gotta do that kind of stuff like that. But truth be told, I hope they don't follow a Madden script because the purest thing about NCAA was that it was NCAA. Like that's what it was. Like that's just what it is. But I want to get John back on at some point, man, because I think there's still a lot of recruiting questions as far as like just recruiting, not talking about who got who and how things work. Because I'm not gonna lie, John, sometimes I have to put my phone down because I think a lot of the blue bloods of this sport have ruined people's mind when it comes to what recruiting is and how it does and how it goes. But that's a conversation for another day. But I'll be remiss if I got on here and then won't get your opinion about some of the coaching hires and especially some of the stuff that happened with how you feel about Brian Harsin down at Auburn and the staff he's putting together and kind of how they closed today. What's your thoughts on that was?
I thought the SEC hires were all pretty strong gambles. I expected more of a sure thing approach, and we got none of that. We got Shane Beamer, first-time head coach at South Carolina. Vanderbilt, Clark Lee, first-time head coach. Young guy, great recruiter, great defensive mind. Auburn went way outside the box, with a West Coast guy and Brian Harsin. So I was, and then Heupel at Tennessee is a little conservative because we don't know what's coming. But even then, I thought they would go, shoot a little bit higher on the perception chain. So I thought everyone took a gamble. With Harsin, I was worried because at first every assistant was a Boise guy.
Bruh,
so
tell me,
man,
Renard, the look you just gave Renard was priceless.
Look, I get bringing the people who helped you get here. I totally get that. Like, right. My first job in this business was because of somebody I went to school with at Syracuse. I get that whole, hook up your friends if you can. I totally get that more than anybody. But Auburn football has to win 3 states in recruiting. You have to compete in Alabama. You have to dig into Georgia. And Florida. That's it.
Right below.
And the first 3 or 4 hires had no ties to the whole South.
So
I was a little concerned, but obviously, you add Mike Bobo, Derek Mason, Cadillac Williams, Cornelius Williams. I've run into a bunch. He is a good young recruiter that Auburn fans I think are gonna really like over the next few years. And then you bring back some nostalgia with some older guys too, with like Will Friend and those types. So they definitely, took care of that Southern footprint at the end of the day. But the beginning of it, I was definitely worried because I thought they were just going to try to be cute and be outside the box for every single hire. And I didn't know if that would work at a school like Auburn. But I think they balanced it out really well. And you're seeing it. They had a huge day today with some DB pickups. They held on to Tavares Dawson from down here in Florida, who was a ball player. I mean,
he's a baller, man.
7 interceptions last year. He's electric. He's going to play receiver or DB. And then they had picked up some big prospects in the week leading up to signing day with Colby Smith, the JUCO linebacker from Georgia as well. So I thought things are really nice right now for Auburn. They had one of the winning days and the winning weeks for signing day.
When I tell you, John, the first hire, like one of his first hires beside the coordinators came from boys, I was like, okay, he's gonna hook up one of these guys. Then the second guy came from boys. Hold up now, wait a minute now. Hey, you better get somebody from down here, man. What you doing?
I was like, time out. Hold on, bro.
Oh man, me and Renard was like, what are you doing? I was like, but he did. I'm more confident in this staff now than I was, like I said, after the Mason hire and after the Bobo hire. But the Mason hire, what really got me scared was I thought the Texas was going to hire one of his good friends as a head coach, and I'm like, oh Lord, we're going to lose Mason. I thought he's going to go back, he's going to go to the NFL. But luckily, they didn't get hired. But I think this staff right here, shout out to Tracy Rocker too, but. I'm glad, he's with the Eagles because I think he's a more pro type coach anyway. But the D-line coach, yeah. But
are you saying he's getting old?
I'm just saying that some people don't like recruiting, John.
Yeah.
That's a proven fact.
I know. There's a reason. There's a reason everybody tried to bail in the last year to the NFL because they're getting tired of this. Because it's 3 classes at once. It's less spots available, more kids to evaluate, and less chances to evaluate them in person. So a lot of coaches were making some phone calls when the season wound down, and I'm not surprised, especially with guys who have, let's just say, been around a little bit
for a minute. Like what this is. You done threw a whole other curveball at us now with this COVID. Like.
Before we, like I said, definitely gonna try to keep it out because I know we could go because we got a lot more that we could talk about. But I won't. I will be remiss if I didn't make sure that we talked about Florida State class, and then I'm gonna let Dave have his time, whatever he wants to talk about. Because really, it's really his day. It's really a proud day for me. For as long as I've been knowing Dave, for little Dave to get a scholarship, and I definitely want him to get off his chest everything that he got on it. But tell me a little bit about Florida State. What's going on with them? Let's make the Seminole happy in the building because he got his shirt on. He ready to go.
I'm more focused on 22, and John knows exactly why. We knew what this year was going to be. He left spots available for transfers, so this class is like. Well, we more focused on 22.
We in the same boat, so don't feel bad. Go ahead.
that transfer group is really nice.
Exactly.
They've done a good job of selling guys with experience on an opportunity to come and play. Obviously, Mackenzie Milton should be the guy, I would imagine. And that's a really nice fit with what Mike Norvell wants to do. So we'll see if a normal year and a normal spring and fall, which they definitely need, will help them on the field. But I thought they did pretty well down the stretch in recruiting. Obviously, they got an SI 99 guy after all, and Destin Hill, formerly Destin Payson, big-time receiver out of Louisiana. We ranked him as a slot at SI, again, a 99 guy. But he's 6 foot 200 pounds. He can play outside too. So I think he's just a ball player. He's a focal point of the passing attack kind of guy. More possession than explosive, but in a timing based offense like what Norvell wants to do. That's a great fit because they're going to be. He's going to have a lot of targets over his next few years.
Yes.
So. I really like that get for Norvell and for the staff. And look, they held on to guys. They held on to guys who were receiving some interest from other programs. So I thought they had
Malik McClain. Bringing him back was huge. Get him back in the fold was huge.
Right. Right outside the top 25 for us. They were under consideration at one point. So like you said, Ben, it's kind of like what you expected to a degree, but I think the transfers make up for it. We weighed transfers in the rankings last year, but there were so many transfers this year that I was like, look, I I got to stick to high school and JUCO because I can't weigh every group of transfers, especially how many 8 transfers?
7 or 8. It was either.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
it's a ton. And let me tell you, Ben knows this. That 22 class SU is building is ridiculous.
We got to hold on to him. You know who we got to hold on to?
Travis Hunter, maybe the best football player in America that's not in college or the NFL.
And it's crazy. He's already the best player in Georgia. We got to hold on to him, man.
Yeah, they got some guys. The quarterback they just picked up, Marquial from Arizona, is big time. He's a lefty, so that'll be interesting. Following Mackenzie Milton. So that'll be a really interesting trajectory to build around. But that 22 class is really nice right now. That's a nice group to start with.
Right. And I tell you about Marquio, it tripped me out to come out now that he actually wrestles too. I know somebody might say a quarterback that wrestles, like, look, that lets you know what his toughness is and, you know, his grit is. Like, he actually wrestles too, and he's a quarterback. So that 22 class is different. I hadn't seen his dad. I had to look him up.
You'll understand why he wrestles when you see him.
Okay. I got you.
Hey, John, the 2022 class as a whole across the country, I just kind of heard there's some special, for lack of better word, some special dogs in this 2022 class across the nation coming up, and 2023, of course. But I mean, I just heard there's some really, really special guys in this class. But Dave, I want to give you your time because, John, we have so much to talk about, man, and we plan on having you back on so many more times. And we appreciate you taking time tonight. But Dave, I want to give you your time. I know you had a couple things you want to hit on, sir. So you go ahead, Mr. Gardner. The floor is yours.
First thing, too, I want to double back on what John mentioned earlier. You all were talking about we were talking about Tennessee and Rock Taylor. This is not the first run-in that Keith Etheridge has had with Tennessee.
No.
I don't know how severe it was, but I think it was pretty bad. They had a quarterback by the name of T.D. Marshall at Leeds High School years back. That was a Tennessee commit. Lo and behold, he ended up at Sanford. I think he's at UAB now playing cornerback. So that's why he felt how he felt. And when I read the article, he said that in this article that I read, he said that he didn't find out that there was no LOI for Rock until he called up there to try to get it in his possession so that he can have it on today. So that's just how crazy it was. So
yeah, he was mad. He was on the radio today. You could tell he was hot. He was hot. He was 38.
Keith is an honest dude. He's honest.
Hey,
dude.
man,
You'll know how he feels about everything.
He is a great guy, man. He really cares about kids. But when a white guy says Bush League, you know you use that term.
He pissed.
Man,
He pissed.
Bush League.
Hit him with a 10.
Bush League, man.
That's the cleanest thing he could look. That's the cleanest thing he could say on the airwave.
Cleanest thing he can say over 100,000 watts.
Right.
Go ahead, Dave. You got it.
But man, I was just looking at. I've been doing a lot of research, and what I found. First of all, we all know COVID-19 really killed this year for recruiting for these kids. What I really thought about, at first I thought that because of COVID and because of the extra year eligibility, that it was because of the seniors that in college that caused the backlog. But I don't believe that's the truth. I'm looking at it now from a standpoint of, I think your jam is at the front end of that class, meaning that, hey, I recruited kids in 2020 that are still going to be freshmen in 2021. Why do I need to bring in another set of kids in 2021 if they're not better than what I recruited in 2020? So basically what you're going to be looking at is you're going to have two sets of kids, two freshman classes in fall of 2021. So the reason why we talked about why the numbers were kind of down, 16's transfer portal, of course, played into that. But then, too, they're really hidden specifics. You know what I mean? If it's something that maybe we didn't address in 2020, we might want to address it in 2021. So I kind of was thinking through that. That was one of my processes. Second of all, too, a lot of things I saw were kind of a lot of middle-tier kids that don't get a lot of the spotlight. I saw that they were maybe getting recruited a level down. I noticed that a lot. A kid that was probably a normal, maybe a high-level FCS, probably was on the lower end of the FCS or even D2. We got a local kid, Perriman, that plays quarterback at Pleasant Grove.
Who can play?
Committed to Charlotte, that can ball. Committed to Charlotte in December. D had to decommit. Just signed a scholarship to West Georgia. So you got an 18-year-old son, and you're trying to explain to him, how in the hell do I go from Group of 5 to D2? And so what I want to explain to people out there is that these are the stories that you don't hear. You don't hear about the 3-star that's about 40 minutes from here in Trussville, Alabama, that don't have a home right now. He didn't sign today. This is just people that I know that I can literally put my hands on. That I could make a phone call and say, hey, this is him. So this whole process was tough for me. But I will say this to kids that's out there are parents, to where, if you sign somewhere that you probably don't really want to sign, take it as a blessing, because in this year, it's a blessing that you're even able to sign and play anywhere. Because if you weren't the elite of the elite, see, the 4 and 5-star guys, it didn't bother them. Right. It's your other guys, it's your middle tier guys, the guys you see that maybe go to an HBCU on a D1, D2 level. It's those guys where it really hurts. So, to all the athletes out there, man, that maybe don't have what they want, don't feel bad about it. Take it as an opportunity. Make the best of the damn opportunity. Keep grinding. And hey, that's why you had the transfer portal. So you go and ball out, and you never know. 2 years from now, no telling where you might be. So that was kind of the thing I wanted to get off my chest.
Get your schoolwork.
You got to
graduate early. Graduate early. Right. Make yourself an early grad transfer. Auburn got a grad transfer. He got 3 years eligibility left. Like what the crap?
What the hell was he doing? He was literally just going to class. He was like, what the hell with practice?
Perfect example. James Blackman transferred to Arkansas State,
and he still got. No, James got. I think James got about 2 or 3 years left, man. Still.
Yeah.
When that kid came from Northwestern, I was like, wait, 3 years? But he's there. Yeah. I said, I know Auburn needs some smart players, but
you got to remember he may have graduated early. That's one.
Yeah,
that's this
year don't count. And if he redshirted somewhere, there you go.
Yeah, man, Jesus.
So that's all I got, Williams, man. So all the kids out there, man, that's gonna play. They had the hopes and dreams of playing college ball, man. Look, it may not be what you want, but you're blessed to have an opportunity. Make the best of it.
And I want to say this, man, and this is a serious note. First of all, once again, man, if y'all not following John, if y'all not going on siallamerican.com, man, make sure y'all following them, man. It's not about rankings. It's not about 4 or 5 stars with John. It's with SI, man. It's about who the players are. You want to know about players, because I think the biggest thing that people make misconception of us, oh man, he's just a 3-star. Well, guess what? That 3-star can turn into a 5-star if you go by that. But if you want just pure rankings, make sure y'all follow them in the SI, man. They have great coverage. John and his team works damn hard, and y'all need to be making sure that y'all follow them. Everybody on here is interested in recruiting, so make sure you're doing that. Also, another thing is that we're going to continue to have this recruiting conversation from both points of view, from us as Down South Football Live podcast, and from John's point of view, because he's in the industry, and from people like David. We're going to get Jay back on. Congratulations, Trey, signing with Air Force. A lot of people want to get back on, and we're going to move into the HBCU part of the recruiting and stuff. Also, man, we're gonna break off and make sure that we give this more coverage, because I think this is a platform or something that people don't really understand. A lot of people just get into recruiting now because they're just shocked by things that's going on. I'm like, I've been following recruiting for 22 years, following it hard. So it's like, I think it's a shock to a lot of people to hear a lot of things. And everybody wants to make jokes about the bag and about money and about this and that. But I don't think y'all understand the stories when the kids are sitting there and they're telling the kids, guess what, son, you're not good enough. You have an offer. It's not committable.
Yeah.
It's a
like
lot
the kid. We didn't even touch on the kid from Florida.
Yeah, we didn't touch on him. I forgot his name. John might know his name.
Yeah.
You're talking about Hammond.
Yeah, like he just look. He like, I didn't decommit. He's like, I'm gonna put it out here. I didn't decommit. They did this to me.
He didn't decommit, but they didn't send him an LOI either.
Right. Yeah.
He's like, look, what am I supposed to do? I was ready, geared up, ready to hit, you know what I'm saying, Gainesville, and then I don't get nothing. You know, like we didn't even touch on him at all.
And Renard, you know, you and I were talking on the phone, man, and I think that it's an education gap. And what I mean by that is from the parent, from the player, and the recruiting world. Because, I mean, yes, all of our kids grew up with dreams and aspirations of playing at Penn State, Ohio State, Alabama, Auburn. But the truth of the matter is the majority of your kids are not going to play there.
Right.
John just said, we talked about Alabama got 14 kids and none of them from the state of Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
Hell, I can't put my hand on but 2 out the state this year. And I could be wrong. But
and one of them was quote unquote the best. One of them was quote unquote the best in the state.
I think
there's a couple more, but not as many as Florida.
It's like 3 or 4. It's not that many.
Right. So 3 or 4 kids and out of thousands that play in high school athletics.
Mm-hmm.
So truth of the matter is we got to educate ourselves better and get our kids. If they want to play college athletics, you know, hey, get them to a point to where they don't look down on the school because they hadn't heard of them.
Right.
At the end of the day, it's college football, and I looked up a fun fact, John. Only 6% of college high school athletes get to play at the next level. 6%.
That's a low ass.
That's a small percentage. So, I mean, I'm big on that because now I've learned a lot. So now I can speak back on it, and that's a piece that we're missing just in society together. And you can't really put it all on the high school coach because hell. He probably got to go teach class, drive the bus. He got all kinds of shit to do.
And some of these schools, you're right. He got a lot of stuff. Direct the traffic,
all that. You know, sell raffle tickets. He got all kind of stuff to do. So, you know, we look at it, man, the coach ain't doing nothing. Well, that coach is doing a whole lot more.
And he got 100 kids, 80 kids. Like he got a lot.
Yeah. I mean, that's where I'm at.
You have a very few select coaches that all they do is coach. Okay, you have a very few that all they do is coach, and a lot of people say, "Oh, the 7." It's not. I know a lot of 7A coaches that have 2, 3 classes.
Yeah, I know. They got to.
I'm talking about teaching home ec and doing all that kind of stuff like that. But Dave, back to your point, and that's why I said this is going to be an ongoing conversation. I think we have a platform. It's not snitching people. It's to educate, and like you said, 6%. Think of how many millions of kids play high school football with the aspirations of playing. It's 6%. And I see my boy Damien finally made in. Damien was supposed to be on, but he was a little late. But Damien is a perfect example. Damien is a producer at Jocks 94.5. Shout out to the 2 shows in the morning that was top 2 or 3 in the country.
Shout out Damien.
Damien's the producer. Damien's producers on that show. Damien's young, 24, 25 years old. He said this morning, "Hey guys, I don't care where you sign. Love your opportunity, and it's a great thing because he played at Birmingham Southern right down the road, and he was great for his opportunity. But we got to bring more to this. We know the Power 5 is going to dominate because you got all of us on here are fans of Power 5 school. We always will be, and this is not a slight to them, but it's the education that you need to understand. Hey, you going to Grambling? Grambling has something to offer you. You're going to the NAIA school, they have something to offer you. All these coaches come from somewhere. Everybody does not start on the sideline with Nick Saban. Everybody does not start on the sideline with Urban Meyer. Well, he's in the NFL now. But everybody doesn't start on the sideline with Dabo or whatever coach you want to name. It is a process to what we're doing and understanding that it's about going to get the education, about getting the opportunity, man, to move forward.
And you know, so Renard, that was like the same conversation I had with my cousin years ago when we graduated from high school. I went into the Air Force. He had a full ride to Tuskegee. And I kept telling him, I'm like, look, I got to go out here. Like he would send me letters and we would finally would talk and he would say things. And I'm like, look, I'm in the real world right now. You're in school. You know what I'm saying? I'm 18 years old, around 20, 23, 24, 25-year-old grown ass men. You in school enjoying life. I'm like, take advantage of your opportunity and enjoy it. Because like you said, it doesn't matter if it's Tuskegee, if it's Bama, if it's, Livingston, wherever it is, you're getting a free ride to go to school and get an education. and you're not having to be in the real world at 18 years old. Enjoy it and embrace the opportunity. So Damian is 100% spot on.
Make those connections. I know. I think John had a point, but I definitely want to make sure that y'all know that. Make those connections and understand what we're doing. Understand what you're doing. Understand the opportunity you have in front of you. But John, I think you was trying to complete a point. Go ahead, sir. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I mean, you're talking Tuskegee and D2 and FCS and all that. I mean, there's going to be a D3 player in the Super Bowl, Ali Marpet, blocking and snapping to Tom Brady. And the new coach of the Chargers was a D3 coach a few years ago at John Carroll in Ohio. He's the head coach of the LA Chargers now. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, the opportunity is there everywhere. And the star of the Senior Bowl was a D3 offensive lineman from Wisconsin, Whitewater, who's going to get drafted in a few months. I mean, it's right. If you can play, you can play. That group will find you. You know, you might have felt overlooked in high school. Fine. Yes, it's hard. Right. If you're good enough for the league, they will find you.
And then Vander Esch played for some weird school where he played on both sides of the ball. I remember the story about Vander Esch when he got drafted. They was like he played on offense and it wasn't boys. Yeah. It was a little below that or something. He played on both sides of the ball.
I think it was in high school. In high school, he played like in high school football or something.
There you go. Yeah, in high school.
Yeah, I thought he played for boys in college, right?
Yeah, but it was high. That was the story. It was high school where it was just like he played at some super small school and he played like he said
8-man football.
Weird.
8-man football.
Oh my
God.
Yeah. I never scouted an 8-man game, and I hope I never have.
That's a good way to tie it up.
Yeah,
we're gonna tie it up on that note. But I want to say this, people, we're still trying to get together this HBCU show, FCS. Please support them this season, man. And for my SWAC people, I know we're upset because we're not gonna have the bands.
That didn't make no sense.
Hold on, Tuck.
They're at home at the home games like this.
It's at the home games, but at the classics, there are no bands. Right. But we gotta support these FCS schools, man. Coming up, their season's about to come up. They're practicing, they're getting ready. We're still trying to do that kind of stuff, and y'all know. Check out the YouTube channel, Down South Football Podcast. Y'all subscribe. The more that y'all subscribe, the more people hit that button, the more things we can do for you guys, man. I definitely wanted to make sure we get that in, fellas. Y'all got any final thing before we let everybody go?
Just a quick shout out. Quick shout out to Sean Feely. It is his birthday.
Oh, Sean!
He said the day was going to be a great day for him because we had a show today. And Sean Feely, happy birthday, my guy. Warrior.
That's love. That's love, bro. That's love.
That's what's up.
Ben?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
Mr. Gardner.
Hey, man, all thing I gotta say, man, just take advantage of the opportunity, kids. And if you want to do something real fun, just look up where Bill Belichick went to college at, and you'll understand what I mean.
Wesleyan. I already know. Wesleyan. Wesleyan.
John, once again, man, we appreciate you coming on, man. I know you've had a long day, but I know you got a passion for it just like we do. You got any final words? Got anything you want to say?
No, I always appreciate the support here. This is, I don't say yes to every show, but I've never said no to you guys, and I don't plan on it anytime soon. I mean, this is one of the most real, true shows that we can spend time on, and that's why I have no issue with it. I can't wait to be back in Bama. This is the longest I've ever been in this business without being in Alabama to scout, and it's killing me. So I will be back in the 251, 205, 256, 334, all of that really, really soon. Excited about it. There's some more Dex Preps camps coming up. Shout out to Dex Tolbert.
Shout out to Dex.
One of the best. There's going to be a lot of events coming up. So for any young players out there, we'll see you around.
Well, I will say this, John. We have a lot of plans here going forward at Down South Football. Definitely want to get into more of the high school part, more of the HBCU part, and just doing more and expanding. We got a lot of things that's going to drop this year, and we just really appreciate you, man, for everything that you do for us and you supporting us. And we're going to continue to support you because the product is real. You talk about us, the product is real on your side also. So we just appreciate everything. And if nothing else, like and subscribe on their YouTube channel. Follow John on Twitter. John, give me your Twitter and the SI site one more time before we leave.
Yeah, it's just everything on socials at SI All American, Twitter, Instagram. YouTube, even though we don't use it much, and then siallamerican.com. Man, we got a lot coming, football and basketball, by the way. So yeah, so help support.
Definitely, y'all support, man. Y'all support John, them support us, and nothing else, man. We'll see y'all real soon. More content coming. We'll holler at y'all.